point, you may be familiar with the Tesla Cybertruck. You know that it looks crazy, that it's fast, and you may already have an opinion about what it's like to drive. With this product more than any other, it seems that many have forgotten the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. On either side, loving or hating the Cybertruck, many seem to have made up their minds as to how good it is as a truck, simply based on looks. The Cybertruck looks unlike anything on the road, but does it drive like any other as well? And is that a good or a bad thing? Today we're testing out the Cybertruck in the real world, towing with it, off-roading, supercharging, charging another car with it, and much more. Let's get right into the fun and tow a 3,000-pound fully electric UTV from Tesla's all-electric truck.
Right now we're fully rigged up towing a pre-production version of the Brawley from Vanderhall. And they have a really cool connector here and it's hooked up to the back. Already the Cybertruck is recognizing that there is a trailer attached. So I'm just gonna go for it. You can hear a little bit of the hitch play, which is normal. So this is a really cool demo of what towing is like on the Cybertruck. Now we got four-wheel steer and steer-by-wire taking us for this turn, and we're towing behind us. It's pretty cool to see how this works in practice. Basically right now it doesn't feel like I'm towing much. I just have to know that there is a big car being towed behind me.
We towed the Brawley with the Cybertruck all the way out to the sand dunes, more on that in a minute, and it was incredibly easy. Really the only thing you notice is the fact that you're consuming more energy. Other than that, it's incredibly easy to drive and maneuver. Part of that is thanks to this specific flat tow attachment, but the power all comes from the Cybertruck. With me was a very experienced hauler, and he said the Cybertruck is the easiest experience he has had towing. So really any concern about hauling with the Cybertruck will mainly relate to real-world range, and Tesla's range extender is supposed to help with that sometime at the end of this year. This was also 3,000 pounds, and the Cybertruck can do up to 11,000, so I'd be curious to see what that feels like.
Another great feature of the Tesla Cybertruck is off-roading, and any truck needs that to a certain degree depending on the make and model and what you're going for. But they have ride heights here, low, medium, high, and then entry. But it goes up a little bit higher if you actually put it in off-road mode. And I'm following up there a couple specifically off-roading vehicles. The Brawley from Vanderhall gives me a little bit of a warning here to use discretion and caution and everything. Gonna go ahead and confirm that. And we have a bunch of options. It's kind of cool to be able to compare it to a really incredible off-roading vehicle.
This is the top-spec tri-motor Cyber Beast, as Tesla calls it. It shares its 11,000-pound towing capacity with the all-wheel drive dual-motor version, but this gets a 320-mile EPA estimated range and a 0 to 60 as low as 2.6 seconds.
So far, this is handling as you may expect. Got some interesting stuff to go over. Woo.
When it comes to off-roading, the most relevant specs are 845 horsepower, 10,296 pound-feet of torque, and 3 motors. One-pedal driving and instant torque on an off-roading electric truck is something we've seen before, but it makes off-roading incredibly easy since you basically keep your foot on the accelerator the whole time.
It's really quiet in here. It's taking a lot. There's a lot of rocks and stuff. It's remarkably quiet in here for how much is going on. I currently drive an R1T from Rivian quite a bit, and that is a fantastic vehicle, and this is just kind of a totally different experience. This really does feel like I'm just driving a car over this, but it has a 6-foot bed and it has all of these things that we need. Let's do some tight turns here. It's just so much easier than it would be with another truck, because right now I'm going to pull a full U, and there it is.
This is possible because the Cybertruck uses steer-by-wire. Steering input is variable depending on what speed you're going.
I do notice at lower speeds for off-road mode, it goes into 0.5s. When you step outside, the ground clearance is really, really impressive. It doesn't feel like it's going to be as high as it is.
Off-road mode options on screen in the Cybertruck include all-purpose sand, gravel, and rock for terrain, and we're using all-purpose here. You can choose stopping modes, there's trail assist, and then Baja allows you to dial in deceleration mode, handling balance, and stability assist. It's very likely more options will come over time as well. Now let's flip around, go through some water, and get some downhill speed. As I'll mention a few times throughout this video, turning is just so incredibly easy in the Cybertruck.
So I have the front camera right there as I go into this puddle.
The Cybertruck also has a feature called Wade Mode that pressurizes the battery and allows you to go as deep as 2.5 feet. Again, this is the top spec Cybertruck, but the all-wheel drive version still gets 600 horsepower and 7,435 pound-feet of torque. It then gets a 340-mile EPA range and 4.1 seconds 0 to 60. For the average customer, this capability is already way more than enough, but Tesla wants to prove that electric can be better in every way. There's nothing quite like off-roading in a nearly silent vehicle that also dampens road noise and bumps. Well, at least most of them. That's some more traditional off-roading, but what about sand? Sand almost seems to be the natural habitat for the Cybertruck, at least based on looks, so how will it do?
I have a feeling this is going to do a really good job. This is amazing. Woo! Oh, man. Wow. Other vehicles can pull this off for sure, but I don't think they're as easy to do it in that. At least it's easy to control. Beast mode. Let's give that a try. You shift entirely on screen unless you want to use these backup shifters. So reverse is down, drive is forward, and you press for park. This is a lot like the Model S and X refresh in the fact that it has kind of a yoke and they put buttons on the steering wheel and got rid of stalks. But the difference here is that since this has steer-by-wire and has dynamic steering, they're a lot more accessible because I really never have to move my hands. So I'm just going to take a full turn right here and my hands just stay exactly where they are on the wheel and where the buttons are. So if I now need to change to left turn, it's pretty easy to do so. And then U-turn right here. Very tight, very easy to do. We're gonna do a proper launch here. Press the brake all the way down, accelerator all the way down. Now preparing for launch, suspension entering cheetah stance. Ready to launch, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Woo! So I've launched a Plaid many times, and this isn't quite as stomach dropping, but it's a lot bigger of a vehicle, and so it still feels incredible. And at the same time, it feels a little similar. That does not feel like a truck launch. I love that this is full screen as well. So shifting on screen is different to get used to at first. Turn around, go into reverse. I'm back, go into drive. If you need to do 3-point turns or anything in this, it's incredibly quick to do so. It does feel like Tesla finally got the right implementation of shifting on screen with steer-by-wire. Because it's one thing if you're doing this with a wheel and then you have to go on the screen and then you're doing this, but if you're just doing this and then swiping and then this and swiping, it's pretty intuitive.
For the off-roading and then dune driving we did with the Cybertruck earlier in this video, we of course had to get there and back, so it was a great test of the Cybertruck's capabilities, range, and charging.
Just like any good car, the Cybertruck has a glove box, and this one is actually a slide-out drawer, so let's open that up. You tap on screen, and inside I have today's sponsor. This is the Collective from ScentWedge, which lets you try out all of their scents. And these are all natural air fresheners made in California. For each kit sold, they plant a tree, and today it's available for the Model 3 and Y, but soon for all Teslas. To check out ScentWedge for yourself, click the link in the description below, and this Collective right here includes every scent that they make.
We used up a lot of the Cybertruck's battery getting to the dunes and then driving through the sand as expected. The Brawley we towed there weighs about 3,000 pounds, and that contributed to our efficiency since last charge of around 719 watt-hours per mile once we got there. It used 79 kilowatt-hours to go 110 miles, and it's important to realize that I don't have a breakdown of elevation, speed, or anything else, and those are important factors if you're trying to really analyze this data. So the initial estimates said we had 59 miles of range to drive 36 miles to a Tesla Supercharger.
Now, supercharging, or really just on-the-road charging, is a big question with the Cybertruck. They're 4680 cells, they're new, they have a different architecture. The Cybertruck is big. It's a lot bigger than any other Tesla, and in some tests we've seen, especially when the stall is behind, it struggles to reach. It can reach, but they kind of have to be very, very close to it, especially if they have any sort of hitch attachment installed. So now that I'm pulling up to this charger, it's actually one where they're all in a line. They're not behind the cars, so this one actually is very easy to charge with the Cybertruck. It's actually potentially closer to the Cybertruck's charge port than it is on the Model 3 and Y when I back in. Pretty amazing to use steer-by-wire. And I have the backup camera, then I can see on the left camera I'm not going to hit anything. All right, I think I'm pretty much centering, then I can just back in. It's definitely a tighter maneuver.
This was a V3 250 kilowatt Tesla Supercharger, and we arrived with 2% charge. It said it would take 45 minutes to get to 80%, and it actually took slightly less than that. Some important things to note are that it was just below freezing outside, 31 degrees. We routed there, so the car did precondition fully, and we maintained the cabin temperature at 70 degrees throughout the charge. For those that want full details of this charging curve, here is a chart, and I'll post this elsewhere, but this was about as good as I could have expected for the Cybertruck. It quickly got up to just over 250 kilowatts, and it took about 3 minutes to get to 10%. We got to 50% in a total of 19 minutes and 10 seconds, and then 80% in a total of 44 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, Tesla typically recommends 80% charge for battery health, and because charging slows down after 80%. On a road trip in any Tesla, it's more efficient to charge up and move on rather than charge the extra 20% to full, which takes the longest. So this should be the experience most people have most of the time. However, if you needed to go from 2 to 100%, that would have taken us about an hour and 29 minutes total. At 71%, I calculated how much longer it would take to get to 100%, and it said 55 minutes, meaning around 47 minutes for 80 to 100% alone. These are Tesla's new battery cells, so charging could improve in general via software, via thermal management improvements, as well as when they fully unlock the Cybertruck's 350 kilowatt charging speed potential at V4 superchargers. I hope to see that even though this was a pretty reasonable charge. It was the normal Tesla supercharging experience, since this can access any chargers on Tesla's expansive network. It's just filling up more battery, and it's a larger vehicle to pull into the stall. We weren't towing at that point, but if we were, we likely would have had to disconnect the trailer, and that is one thing Tesla will have to address going forward.
I've been driving the Cybertruck all day today, and I'm trying to put into words my thoughts on this truck because it's difficult. It's actually one of the more challenging reviews I've had to do because you can't just say epic, amazing, incredible, but a product like this deserves more explainers, especially if it's great. And the Cybertruck is incredible. I almost hesitate to say that, but I have never driven a car like this in my entire life. We got speed, we got some bumps that we're going over that it just dampens incredibly nicely. It just kind of has everything you would want, and it's a truck with a 6-foot bed in the back. You can take things a little faster than you're used to in a truck. I love the Rivian R1T, but I would be bopping all over the place driving the way that I'm driving right now in that car. Woo! It's just all right there. Everything you could want. All the power, the steering, everything makes sense. You have full control over everything that's happening. For some people, that's not going to be the coolest thing. You know, everything's super, super tight. Your accelerator is going to respond instantly to anything you do, accelerating or braking. And so is your steering squircle. I've never felt this kind of drive. I don't think it has existed. When you're going over bumps on the road, you can feel how heavy it is. It feels like almost like a brick going down the freeway. But at the same time, that doesn't mean it's bad in handling or anything. There's nothing bad about the fact that it's heavy. It just has a heavy feel. The four-wheel steering, coupled especially with steer-by-wire, is probably the biggest thing to me. Now, I'm out here in Utah filming this, and every time it's insane to pull 170 degrees, lock out, and pull an entire U-turn in a giant 7,000-pound truck. I rented a Model 3 while I'm out here. Great car, love the Model 3, but I got in it. I all of a sudden had to readjust to moving the wheel way more. Versus this, it just makes sense. At a low speed, you need to turn, and then you just turn. That was a 90-degree turn right there. So this is the situation where you actually need to be able to do it fast. That's actually the easiest U-turn I've ever done in a car, as far as what it required from me. It really does feel like a video game controller, and it's hard to explain the feeling. I've heard other reviewers talk about driving this for a day and then getting back in something like the F-150 Lightning. But it's a whole nother thing when you get back into a Tesla Model 3, at least in my opinion, and then that feels weird to drive. This is smoother, more comfortable, better ride quality, better handling, better steering. I haven't taken it on the track, but for everyday things and the off-roading I was doing, I'm just pretty blown away. I was never expecting this with the Cybertruck. Now, reviews of this truck have been very positive so far, and I think a lot of people are caught by surprise that that is happening. But Tesla went all out in every aspect of this truck. They said if this thing is going to be a triangle driving down the freeway, then we need this thing to be insane in every single capacity. And they've absolutely done that here. I think this is the full fruition of everything Tesla is working on and will be putting into their cars in the future. And we're going to see things trickling down from the Cybertruck into their cars, into other cars in the industry. And this is just the blunt version of absolutely all of that put together in one package. If it's not for you, I totally get it, but I think you need to drive it before you write it off. It's pretty unbelievable once you see what this thing can actually do.
Something that can come with the territory of a brand new vehicle, especially something as extremely different as the Cybertruck, is early production issues. Interestingly, we did face one issue with the Cybertruck, but it actually worked out really well. The main screen stopped working. It was black, and after multiple resets, plugging it into charge and more, nothing was able to fix it even though the rear screen remained fully usable. The screen is pretty central to everything in this truck, so we headed straight for Tesla service in Utah.
It's just funny what the situation becomes because you don't have stocks, so shifting is not on screen. It's up on the pillars, which is a little weird to get used to, but fairly easy. And then I can't control climate, so it's a little warm in here, and my heated seat is on full blast, and then I don't know what speed I'm going or what my range is. I don't have phone access right now, but if I did, I'd be able to see almost all of that. I'd even see a live speed on the app. All of those systems are detached from your essential functions.
Tesla service took us in right away. It took them about 30 minutes. They gave us a loaner Model Y to go grab some lunch during the fix, and then we were on our way. It looks like it just took a low voltage reset, which in the case of the Cybertruck is 48 volts. Then a firmware update populated and they installed that. I wouldn't be surprised if that firmware update was fixing this issue on all Cybertrucks. Aside from that problem, there was not much of note with our truck. In fact, it was one of the best built Teslas I've ever been in. I've owned every Tesla besides the Model X, and everything in this truck felt tight. Of course, it's an early enough build that there can be an extra focus there, so the real build quality insights will come as production ramps. Fingerprints are definitely a part of the Cybertruck, with it being stainless steel, but to me it's just a part of this truck. In the back seats, sitting in the middle, there was a little bit of rubbing to be heard between the seats as I moved around, and then some of the textures inside the truck weren't perfect. The Alcantara dash didn't make a straight line across, and this may be something that the all-wheel drive without Alcantara actually does better, since that doesn't have to be wrapped and pulled. The white paneling on the lower part of the dash wasn't quite smooth. It has some texture that didn't seem intentional, but also is something you really only notice in white. One feature still absent from the Cybertruck is Autopilot or FSD. At this moment, it only has traffic-aware cruise control, and those other features are coming in a future software update. This is fairly normal for Tesla on a brand new vehicle launch in such low numbers. These were things I noticed because I was looking, but did any of them bother me? No. As an owner, I would forget about these issues in around a week, but they are things I point out so that hopefully Tesla can fix them. It is an expensive vehicle. In any case, that brings us to the rest of the features in the Cybertruck. The main steering wheel squircle has most of your relevant driving controls as buttons, including blinkers. These are nice because they are actual buttons rather than touch-sensitive ones like the Model S and X have had. As you saw in practice, the fact that this uses steer-by-wire enables dynamic steering on the Cybertruck, and it makes it extremely maneuverable. On top of that, it allows Tesla to improve steering via software update. The LED light bar integrated into the dash and all doors is RGB and customizable on screen. The cabin is very clean, and then the massive 18.5-inch screen controls everything else. It is incredibly responsive, the software is extremely refined, and it utilizes an AMD Ryzen processor. It remains to be seen if it has the RAM to eventually support Steam like the Model S and X. It is all designed with a cyber theme to it, and at no place does it stray. Even the rear view camera icon is a hexagon. All around the Cybertruck, they have intentionally left out Tesla logos or any rounded surfaces that you can notice. The seatbelt attachment in the pillar is triangular, the bed tie-downs are squared, camera outlines on the pillars are squared, recovery hooks are squared, and everything that isn't flat takes its shape with angles instead of rounded surfaces. It's a really cool attention to detail that I kept noticing in small ways. Up front is the front trunk, which I used throughout the review to store a carry-on and a backpack. The front seats are heated and cooled, the rear seats fold up completely for a great pass-through that is easily accessible since the doors open 90 degrees, and there is a screen for rear passengers. There are also two 120-volt outlets and a few USB-C ports in the cabin. One interior omission is handles. No Tesla has these, but usually people want these in a truck for easy entry and exit. Tesla opted instead to focus on design here and an entry suspension mode. Sitting in any position in the Cybertruck is incredibly spacious with plenty of legroom, and the all-glass roof contributes to added headroom and an open feeling. Around back is the full 6-foot bed with built-in tonneau cover. This cover works great and is strong enough to stand on confidently. It can also be opened or closed while driving. When we watched the Cybertruck, it kept the bed fully dry, but then we did see some water trickle into the front of it after finishing up. The tailgate powers down, is manual up, and is very lightweight. Compared to my R1T, I was surprised how light this was. Up top are roof rack attachments with an integrated power feed for a light bar or other accessory. One thing that many people seem to focus on with the Cybertruck is the giant windshield wiper. The single 4.5-foot wiper is huge, but in practice, I really forgot about it. It worked great when we needed to use it, and then it just sits upright while driving. You forget that it's there. Beneath the bed is a sub-trunk that has built-in slots for dividers, and of course the bed has integrated lighting with a brightness adjustment on screen. One great feature of the Cybertruck is bidirectional charging. The Cybertruck is able to power most of what you need via 4 120-volt outlets and one 240-volt outlet. You can also connect to a home for whole home backup using their PowerShare technology. After supercharging, we headed over to our rental Model 3 and plugged in using Tesla's standard NEMA 1450 mobile connector. It couldn't have been easier. I plugged the mobile connector into the Cybertruck, turned the outlets on screen, ensured that they would stay on when I exited the vehicle, plugged in the Model 3, and charging started. The Model 3 ramped up quickly to 32 amps and 7 kilowatts. In the Cybertruck, it showed around 7.3 kilowatts outputting from the outlets in the car. It will maintain this consistently until something stops drawing power or the Cybertruck's charge drops below 20%. It's a really cool image on its own, an electric car charging another electric car, and it's something other electric trucks are capable of. So I'm really glad to see a Tesla can finally rescue another EV if needed. This is a very cool demo, but it's only one use case, and there are a ton of things you could do with the Cybertruck here, especially considering the battery pack is about the size of 9 Tesla Powerwalls. I talked briefly about our sponsor ScentWedge earlier, and in addition to the Collective, a collection of their all-natural air fresheners, they also make center console overlays. This is made of real walnut wood, easily installs in the Model 3RY, and is easy to remove or adjust since it uses suction cup adhesive. It's linked in the description below. As I mentioned earlier, this was a tough review to do. I had plenty of fun making it, but the Cybertruck is a peculiar product. If I come out the gate talking about how incredible it is, many may not believe me, and I think this is a good analogy for that. Think about someone who has never had a coffee in their life. You decide to introduce them to coffee by giving them a shot of espresso. Within that espresso are most of the elements that make great coffee, but it's just too concentrated to appreciate. I think the Cybertruck feels that way to a lot of people. It's like someone went a few decades into the future and put every feature a car will have into one incredibly polarizing product. 48 volts, dynamic steer-by-wire, 4-wheel steering, strong stainless steel, sharp angles. These may be things we see slowly coming, one by one, to more normal-looking vehicles in the coming years, but Tesla decided to do it all in one go today. This truck really is a marvel. Once inside, you forget that it's a triangle made of stainless steel. It just feels like an extremely refined, smooth, powerful, silent car. Then it has all of these truck features. I can't wait to see what the future holds for it and see how this product influences the future of transportation in subtle ways. Big thanks to everyone who made this video possible, and I'll see you on the next one.